Matthias on the other. Eric Hughes and John Joyner the centres. 5'8" is John Holmes and the half Gary Stevens. The lock is Steve Norton. Second rowers are George Nichols and Doug Lawton. The front row Trevor Skerritt and Jim Mills. And the hooker is David Ward. And very shortly the Australians will come onto the field, led out by George Peponis. With me in the commentary is a man who knows what it's like to be out there under the atmosphere of Test football, Keith Barnes.
Yes, Ray, well, it's certainly a wonderful atmosphere out here this evening. There was a fairly big crowd here, and here come the Australian side.
Exactly, and there he is, George Peponis. What a very memorable moment in his life as he takes the Australians out. And from fullback down, it's Graham Eadie. The wingers, Larry Corrower and Kerry Bousted. Centres are Mick Cronin and Steve Rogers. The 5'8" is Alan Thompson. The half, Tom Raudonikis. The lock is Ray Price. And the second row is Les Boyd and Rod Reddy. Front row, Craig Young and Rod Morris. And the hooker, George Peponis. The reserves for Australia, Ray Brown and Alan McMahon. And so, as Keith Barnes said, a very big crowd here at Lang Park. Both grandstands housed to capacity. Quite a bit of room, though, in the standing areas at the ends of Lang Park, as we stand by now for the national anthems of both countries. So the referee for this big one is Eddie Ward of Brisbane. And the green and gold of Australia in against the red, white and blue of Great Britain. Great Britain holding the better of the clashes in Ashes duels over the years. Australia the current holders, winning it in 1978. And they're out there on this rather balmy night at Lang Park, Brisbane, in defence of the Ashes, the first of 3 tests. And kicking off for Australia will be Mick Cronin. Number 4. Time on. And the first test is underway. Cronin sending it down and almost dropped by Woods. And he's tackled just inside the 22 line. Playing it back to the hooker Ward. That's George Nichols. Nichols met by a 3-man Australian tackle. Rod Morris, George Peponis and Tom Raudonikis in that tackle. And it's now with Doug Lawton, the captain, who was under a cloud for the greater part of the week. In fact, the Great Britain side was only named at around about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Back for the kick now. And kicking ahead is the 5'8" John Holmes, taken by Kerry Bousted. Brings a roar from the crowd. Bousted in his first international before his home state. Craig Young now taking it up for Australia. About 40 metres out. Played back to Peponis and given to Raudonikis. Now to Boyd. Boyd taken head on by Skerritt. A tackling front rower who won our man of the match in the Queensland Great Britain match here last week. Cronin beating the tackle of Joyner originally before being held up by Jim Mills. Played and given back to Rod Morris, also a Queenslander. Met by Ward and taken to ground. This is the last coming up for the Aussies. Played back to Peponis and given to Raudonikis and then on to Alan Thompson. He cuts out Steve Rogers, goes to Graham Eadie. Eadie now looking to make the bust, a man that England certainly must watch. And that's the end of the tackle count. And the first scrum of the match is about to pack down, about 7 metres on Great Britain's side of the halfway.
Yes, one of the few players that Great Britain are going to have to watch in this game here this evening. Another 2 that they're going to have to watch are the explosive second row pair, Les Boyd and Rod Reddy. The Great Britain forward showed a reluctance to tackle in that game against Brisbane, and they've retained basically the same pack for this clash.
Raudonikis in possession, and the crowd roars as Gary Stevens, the former Manly halfback, makes the tackle, and Steve Norton came over the top. Ray Price makes the break for Australia. Knocked down by Great Britain. The tackle count restarts. And Price is tackled by Matthias, and a penalty to Australia. First of the match. And Mick Cronin will be called up to take this kick for goal from approximately 33 metres out. You're watching the first test from Lang Park, Brisbane. on the O10 network throughout Australia. And brought to you by Electronic Sales and Rentals and Sanyo. And the man of the match out of this particular one takes out the Sanyo video cassette recorder, valued at over $1,000. And the Electronic Sales and Rentals people in Sydney, and this is, of course, for Sydney viewers only, on 6480100, make the same offer as they did last weekend to rent or buy television over this weekend and a long weekend at that. You can also receive a free bonus of the digital watch. Mick Cronin, prolific point scorer, plays for the Parramatta Club in Sydney. Born at Kiama. Publican at Gerringong. And a real country boy looking to put the first points on the board in this series. He's got the height, he's got the length, but it's there. Oh, it looked like it was just getting away, but Cronin has brought up the flags. And Australia lead Great Britain by 2 points to 0.
Two of the big guns in the electronics industry.
Australia, and I feel that it's been a fairly quiet opening. I'd be looking to Great Britain to put a bit of stick into the Australian pack in these early stages.
So to restart for the Lions is their 5'8" Johnny Holmes. And down to Kerry Boustead, a man possessed of great speed. Met there by Ward and Skerritt, and he's going to play it back to his captain, George Peponis, just outside the Australian 22. They work blindside to Craig Young. A good, strong run by Young. Tackled eventually by George Nichols, number 9 for England. Across through Rodonicus onto Price. He ducks under one, gets away from a second, tries to slide it to Alan Thompson. That could have been curtains for Great Britain. Played back to Peponis onto Rodonicus, and now with Reddy. Reddy lurking out wide. Taken low by Steve Norton, and up the top by Holmes. Played back to Peponis. That's Rod Morris, playing in 13, on the halfway, and pulled down by Skerritt. This is the last tackle coming up for Australia. Out to Rodonicus. They don't want to kick. They want to run. Thompson to Rogers. Rogers getting his first touch. And that's the end of the tackle count. And it's Australia 2, Great Britain no score. Rodonicus defeated. Wards has put it in. It's a Great Britain ball. Out to Norton standing out of the pack. And he is taken by Price. Gets it back to Holmes. Holmes takes play down about 7 or 8 meters out from the Australian 22. Playing it back to Gary Stevens. Across now to George Nichols. Serves it up to Doug Lawton. Lawton is taken head-on by Price. And coming in over the top was Alan Thompson. Played back to Ward, given blindside to big Jim Mills. And he's inside the 22. Again, Price in the tackle. That time with Cronin, his Parramatta teammate. Stevens getting it back and dropped. A knock on against Skerritt. And a scrum to go down just outside the Australian 22. Australia leading Great Britain 2 points to 0.
Could have been a dangerous situation there when Norton got outside Alan Thompson, but Ray Price was able to pick him up. But then he clever play. He turned the ball back inside to Holmes, and it could have been a dangerous situation for Australia.
Australia's ball, and Price running off the pass of Rodonicus. 10 meters out from the quarter line. This is Les Boyd, the man that carved the Englishman up in the 78 series. Met there by Nichols and Hill and played and gone to Rodonicus and now to Alan Thompson. Hughes the tackler, played quickly by Thompson. Back to Rodonicus and now to Reddy. Price swerving back in field and creating his own type of magic at the moment, Price. But the knock-on is there. Ball going forward, recovered by Australia. And a scrum to go down inches on the Australian side of the halfway. Australia's ball. Rodonicus works to... almost intercepted by Joyner. And a penalty to Australia. That's against Joyner for being offside.
He was offside, Ray, but only just. And he anticipated the switch of the Australian play there. And it was a bit unfortunate as far as Great Britain was concerned, because Graham Eadie was also up in the back line.
Steve Rogers taking the line kick. He'll be kicking towards the old grandstand side or the club side. In fact, our cameras will pick up a glimpse of the big crowd out there. It's well filled to capacity. Every covered seat in the ground, I would imagine, occupied. As Larry Corlower takes the tap on the 22 through Rodonicus to Thompson to Cronin to Boyd. And Joyner takes Boyd. knocking him out of the game. Paponis to Morris, and met by Skerritt, a good tackle. But Australia are only 11 metres out from the line as it goes to Raudonikis, on to Thompson, then to Cronin, holds the pass back, gives it to Price. Price turns it inside to Korowa, and Korowa is pulled down 10 metres away from the Great Britain line. Australia 2, Great Britain yet to score. Raudonikis popping it up to Young, almost intercepted by Norton. Australia back in possession. The tackle count restarts. 6 more for Australia. Paponis ahead and going within about 5 metres of the line. Paponis playing it back to Korowa. Raudonikis, Thompson looking for a runner, finding Boyd, and a good tackle by Norton. Being played by Boyd to Raudonikis. Then to Morris. Now to Alan Thompson. Cronin on to Reddy to Bousted, and Bousted scores the first Australian try and the first try of the match. Scored by the Queenslander Kerry Bousted, now based with the Eastern Suburbs Club in Sydney. And here it is on the O10 network video disc replay. Cronin drew them and gave it to Reddy. Reddy did likewise. Committed the Englishman to him before Bousted reached across in the corner. 10-metre sprint, and Australia lead by 5 points to 0. Here it is on the head-on. Cronin.
That is the
Reddy.
way Matthias leaves his winger there in the clear to come in and take Reddy, Ray.
Exactly, Keith, although by the same token there was some good ball work by both Cronin and Reddy.
Yes, well, Mick Cronin was the main contributor, of course, with a very clever pass to Reddy. But then when Reddy did set up Bousted, I thought if Matthias had turned and stuck with Bousted, well, obviously there was a chance that England could have saved the situation. But top marks to Australia for the clever passing movement.
So Mick Cronin from almost on the touchline, just outside the 22, looking to make it 7 points to 0. This match only 9 minutes old. Cronin successful with his only kick so far, raising the flags with a penalty goal after about 3 minutes of time. And here he is now, looking to convert the Kerry Bousted try. It looks okay off the boot, but it could be just a fraction to the right. It is. And so the scoreline in the first test is Australia 5, Great Britain 0. And just waiting for the ball to come back to the Great Britain kicker, John Holmes. Good try to Australia. And there's the restart. Going down to Graham Eadie. Playing at about 7 metres out from the 22. That's Raudonikis. Boyd, Western Suburbs teammate. Boyd ahead. Good run. Bumping run. 9 metres short of the halfway. Playing it back to Paponis. Raudonikis. Reddy. Eadie on the inside. Eadie going across the field. Now straightening. Eadie over the halfway.
And that's certainly going to be Australia's early tactics with Les Boyd and Rod Reddy running off Tommy Raudonikis.
Raudonikis again. Craig Young. And now Reddy. Gets a pass away. A one-hander. It went through Price. Out to Cronin. Gets it back to Korowa. Korowa runs into Barents. And also out there, Hughes, the centre. Craig Young. Raudonikis is giving his backs very speedy service. Probably in his last international series, Tom Raudonikis, and that's him with the ball on the end of 6. And the scrum to go down with the Australians leading Great Britain by 5 points to 0.
And the early scrums favouring Australia 3-1, with the penalties also 2-0 in Australia's favour.
So Stevens feeding it. Great Britain's ball. Norton beating Price. Holmes scooping it off the ground back to Woods. And the fullback is taken to ground by Price. Playing it back to Ward. Tackler was Young below, and over the top again was Price. He's doing a lot of work. Skerritt. Around the legs is Reddy. Price over the top again. Oh, headbutt from Skerritt. Penalty to Australia, most definitely. Let's see if it comes up as clearly on the replay as it did for the people here live at Lang Park watching this match. And here's the tackle. And there it is, bang. And Ray Price on the receiving end of what is commonly called a Liverpool kiss, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly was. And Big Jim Morgan, of course, was one of the first recipients of that in a test match quite a few years ago.
Was that here?
I think it was around about 1970 up here. Yes, the Battle of Brisbane. A very fiery clash.
And so Mick Cronin with the attempt for penalty. Australia leading 5-0. A wide shot giving you an example of how far Cronin has to flight this ball. He's about 20 metres in from touch. 1 out of 2. Bousted a try, Cronin a penalty goal. And you're watching the first test from Lang Park in Brisbane.
Just referring back to that incident, it's very unusual to see the Great Britain players caught in a situation when they have possession and giving away a penalty.
On the O10 network, this telecast coming to you in Sydney through the courtesy of Electronic Sales and Rentals and Sanyo. Mick Cronin hits it. It's got the height and the length, and it's a goal. A further 2 points to Australia and to Mick Cronin as the cameras show you the main grandstand complex, and the crowd obviously very, very happy with the 7-0 lead to Australia over Great Britain. So the restart again, becoming a little bit monotonous for Great Britain, I would think, and Holmes puts it down for Price to fumble, taken away by Bousted and tackled by Ward, the hooker. Plays it back to Rhodonicus, looking for Boyd, finds him, and Boyd is held by Skerritt and Ward. Plays it 6 metres out from the 22, Rhodonicus to Young, turns it back to Rhodonicus. Rhodonicus comes inside Boyd to avoid the shepherd, and the little champion plays the ball. Morris, now with the Balmain club in Sydney, formerly from Brisbane. Rhodonicus, Cronin, held there by Hughes and by Nichols. Rhodonicus, Craig Young, turning his pass away to Rhodonicus, then to Reddy. Reddy looks at Boyd, gives it to Rogers. Rogers with a weaving run over the halfway mark. And this is the last one for Australia now. 5 tackles gone. Out to Rhodonicus, on to Thompson, and grounded by Ward, and so the scrum will go down just on the Great Britain side of halfway, with Australia leading by 7 points to 0, and we've had 15.5 minutes of time in the first test. Gary Stevens to feed, and again won by the English side. Through Holmes, it's gone to Woods, joining into the back line nicely, and then he's passed behind Barentz, and referee Ward says play on, as Barentz gets up nursing his forehead, plays it to Norton. Norton taken by Price and Corowa. Barentz is still injured for England. Played by Norton, across to Holmes. Now it's with Nichols. Nichols is held by Reddy. And George Nichols, who scored the first try for Great Britain against Queensland, plays the ball. Holmes now, sliding the pass and dived on by Dougie Lawton, who of course was here with the Canterbury side in Australia. Norton over the head of Matthias, picked up by Bousted, but Matthias rounds up the little winger, and Bousted to play it. Out to Rhodonicus. Across a long ball to Thompson. Out to Boyd, a perfect pass. Boyd gets a one-hander to Corowa. Corowa's flying. Has Woods to beat inside the 22. And Corowa is eventually held about 15 metres out from the line. So Australia leading 7 points to 0, and they get the penalty. Offside in the play the ball against Great Britain. That was a good break made by Boyd.
It was certainly a great break, and one of the situations, of course, that we find the Great Britain side is that Holmes is moving up very quickly to attempt to drive Alan Thompson back inside, but he's finding that Les Boyd and Rod Reddy are positioning themselves outside Alan Thompson, and he's given them a good service. On that occasion, it was a great clearing run by Boyd that enabled Corowa to race down that left flank. It was a good covering tackle by Woods too, and he also showed that when he came into the back line a couple of minutes previously that he could be a danger to the Australian side.
So Mick Cronin from out near the touchline, just outside the 22, taking this penalty kick for goal. Cronin's had 3 kicks for 2 successes. At half-time, the Great Britain halfback, Steve Nash, who was expected to be in this game tonight, will be our guest. And looking at the first half of play. One of the features of this match, Keith, in the Australian lineup has been Raudonikis and his service to the back line. He's just kept giving the ball all night.
Yes, well, he's got a great outside set of backs, and he wants to give it to them as quickly as possible.
The kick by Cronin looks like he might have done it again. Has he? Yes! What a great kick by Cronin from the touchline. Australia 9, Great Britain yet to score. Oh boy, did Mick Cronin bring his kicking boot to Brisbane, or did he not?
Yes, well, he certainly turned in some great performances on this Lane Park Oval, and tonight appears to be no exception. He's a wonderful goal kicker, a tremendous point scorer, and each of his kicks this evening have been straight as a die. One kick just outside the upright, but 3 great conversions. Put Australia in a great position after 19 minutes.
So the restart again, and it's with Price. And he's had a top opening to this game, Price. He's got through a tremendous amount of tackling. Raudonikis looking to turn it back to the blind side, but deciding to take the tackle of Skerritt. And it's gone to Reddy now. Reddy taking it up towards Norton. Stands in the tackle, but eventually falls under the weight of Ward. And this is Craig Young ahead to the halfway mark. And he's lost it. It's with Great Britain, and this is Woods, the fullback, around Raudonikis and up to the halfway. And it's Great Britain to play the ball a few meters on the Australian side of the halfway mark, and Matthias grabs another 5 meters, held by Craig Young and again by Ray Price. Gary Stevens, Nichols, through Holmes. It's now with Lawton standing out very wide. Ward, Stevens, Skerritt. And he's held over there by Rogers and by Cronin. Players about 5 meters on the Australian side of the halfway as it's played back to Stevens, and it comes through Nichols and then away from Holmes onto Norton. He's dropped it. Thompson for Australia, making the break, taking play about 15 meters out from the quarter line. So Australia back on the attack. Reddy, Cronin, and held there by the centre Hughes and his partner Joyner. On the blind side, Craig Young. Ridden into the ground by Norton. Played back to Peponis. On to Raudonikis. The run around. Still with Peponis. Now to Boyd. And Boyd will play it just outside the quarter line. The tacklers were George Nichols and Steve Norton, who's doing a lot of defensive work for Great Britain. Alan Thompson. Cronin. A grub kick. Comes off an Englishman, and it goes to Norton, and he's knocked over by the Australians quite heavily. Penalty to Great Britain. That's against Rod Morris.
He took the ball well, Norton, then under a lot of pressure. He's having a top game for Great Britain. He's the architect of their attack. He's taking the first pass off the ruck at most occasions, but unfortunately he doesn't have the powerhouse and explosive type runners in the Great Britain pack that Australia have at the present time. Also, as Ray said, he's getting through a tremendous amount of work in defence, both he and Skerritt, and probably the same thing can't be said about a couple of the other English forwards.
So the tap being taken by Ward, just on the Australian side of the halfway. And Jim Mills takes it ahead, looks to unload, does that. Ward in the position of having nobody to give it to. And he's going to play it now. Midway between the quarter and halfway on the green and gold end of the field. Skerritt in centre field, playing it back to Ward. On the left runs Holmes, and this is Matthias. Held around the legs by Bousted, gets his pass to Hughes, and he's put down by Boyd. So Great Britain now, about 10 metres out from the Australian 22. Out to Lawton, then on to Holmes, and then to Skerritt. He's lost it, but behind him, and Stevens has it, and the tackle count has been restarted. Gary Stevens plays the ball. It's with Holmes now. Then it goes on to George Nichols, and Nichols is held there by Rod Reddy. Ball to be played. Back to Ward. Out this time to Doug Lawton. Lawton looking for the opening, but the Australian defence is there again in the shape of Ray Price. On to Ward. Ward going himself, trying to find the opening, which at the moment isn't there. Stevens gets a pass away to Mills. He drops it. Tries to scoop the pass away to Joyner. Does that. And Joyner will play the ball. 10 metres on the Australian side of the halfway. That's Nichols. A long ball to Holmes. A low ball to Steve Norton. Norton with a good run for Great Britain. Down to the 22. Back to Holmes, the 5'8". He's inside the Australian quarter. But Rogers and Eadie combined to put him down. So on the last tackle now, it's out to Doug Lawton. He shows the ball and then goes ahead himself, but he's lost it, and it's an Australian ball.
And that was a dangerous situation there where Norton was able to make the break in the Australian defence, but it clearly emphasised the lack of pace in this Great Britain backline when Holmes, who was put into the clear, was easily rounded up by the Australian defence, and the support was very slow to get to him.
Reddy playing it now, deep inside the Australian half. Craig Young getting it to Raudonikis. Raudonikis looking for the opening, down to the 22. Tackler was Skerritt. Played back to Paponis. Thompson. Cronin, jolting tackle by Norton. It certainly was, and tackle with the ball for England now is their second rower, George Nichols. Played back to Gary Stevens. Stevens to play it. A few metres inside the 22, back to Ward. That's Nichols. Held there by Craig Young and Les Boyd. Plays it back to Ward, then to Mills. Mills is taken around the legs by Craig Young and over the top by Rod Morris. And Mills will play the ball again, back to the hooker and dummy half Ward. Over the shoulder of Lawton, on the ground, scooped up by Alan Thompson, the Manly 5'8". And it's Thompson to play the ball for Australia, taking complete advantage of some mistakes being made by the Great Britain side. Raudonikis, ready. Boyd, bad pass but picked up. No, he's knocked it on, said referee Eddie Ward. The scrum.
Big Jim's Mills and Doug Lawton taking a long time to get to that scrum.
Yes, they know they're in a test match tonight, Keith. Penalty to Great Britain. It's against Raudonikis. Ward indicating to Raudonikis he wants it in the centre. Now this man coming up to take the kick for Great Britain, John Woods, and he is a tremendous goal kicker. He had a record of something like 27 successes from 32 attempts. That was up to and including the Queensland match here last Friday week. So John Woods plays for the League club. He's 22. Plays fullback, centre and 5'8". He's playing fullback in this match tonight. There's his kick, and it's unsuccessful. And Bousted for Australia. Runs it back into the field of play. Runs across the field, away from Barent. Still going. Like lightning is Bousted. And stepping beautifully. A great run, bringing the crowd to their toes. Ending 5 metres outside the 22. Raudonikis, Boyd. Boyd getting a pass back to Raudonikis. It appears to be knocked on, but the referee waiting to apply the advantage. But the scrum is to go down just outside the Australian 22, with Australia leading Great Britain 9-0 at Lang Park, Brisbane. Price with a swerving run down to the halfway. Playing it back to Thompson. Then Raudonikis, now ready, over halfway. Stepping inside Holmes, turning it back to Thompson. Then Cronin, now Boyd. Still going, Australia. Tackler Doug Lawton, along with John Joyner. Boyd playing it. This man is Rod Morris. 12 metres out from the quarter line. Played back to Paponis. Raudonikis. Ready, showing him the ball. Trying to go himself, Raudonikis. For one of the few times in this match. Norton was the tackler. This is Young. Up to the 22. Now to Price. And around the legs there was Doug Lawton. Over the top Ward. Last tackle Australia. Raudonikis. Rogers looking for the opening. Put down though by Stevens. And the scrum will go down just inside Great Britain's 22.
Yes, well, Australia in this particular half are sticking to the successful formula that was that they played to in England, and most of this, of course, is centering around Raudonikis. He's taking the first pass off the ruck, looking to bring Les Boyd and Rod Reddy into the play at every opportunity. We haven't seen a great deal of movement out into the three-quarters, even though the Australians are looking to open up the game at every opportunity. But Steve Rogers, we haven't seen much of him in this first half, and Graham Eadie also in the latter stages. The last 10 or 15 minutes has been particularly quiet. For Great Britain, they've won 3 of the last 4 scrums, and obviously playing with the ball, this has nullified some of the attacking ability of the Australian team.
So Stevens feeding, and it's won by Great Britain out to Norton, then to Woods linking up with the back line outside the 22. He's got pace, this man. Eventually tackled by Cronin. Midway between the 22 and the halfway on Great Britain's end of the field. It's across through Holmes and gone then to George Nichols. Gets his pass away to Hughes, the centre. He's into Australian territory. It's with Gary Stevens. Stevens has run out of support though. And it's Steve Rogers, the tackler, as Stevens plays it. It's gone out to the 5'8 Holmes. Hughes runs on the inside. He slides the pass to Joyner. Joyner looking for Barents. It's gone forward and deliberately, and it's a penalty to Australia. Well, that ball from here certainly appeared to go forward, and we can see that on the Sanyo electronic sales and rentals replay as it goes to Joyner. And he takes it towards the far corner from where we broadcast. And there's the ball, and you could see quite easily that it was deliberately served forward to Barents. And so we're back live at Lang Park, and you're watching the first test telecast on the O10 network between Australia and Great Britain, with Australia leading 9 points to 0.
And on the both occasions that Great Britain have really breached this Australian defence, it's been the player running out wide and turning the ball back infield to a player coming straight down the middle. And on that occasion, of course, it was Holmes that put Joyner through the gap.
Raudonikis serving it to Price. Price, after juggling it, has made a few more metres, standing up and getting it back to Young. Now it's Reddy. Looks back at his St George teammate Young. Then wrestles with Joyner, and Stevens has to come in with Joyner to eventually put the lanky Rod Reddy to ground. It's Thompson giving it to Craig Young again. And he's held there by Mills, Norton, and by Ward. Craig Young, one of the successes of the 78 trip by the Australians to Great Britain. Paponis to Rogers. Rogers still going. On to Paponis again. Around the corner to Bousted. Bousted looks for his second and scores again. Kerry Bousted scoring his second try. But what a magnificent pass by George Paponis. Here it is. Raudonikis back to Paponis. He's inside the 22 to Rogers, or the halfway, I should say. Then Rogers shrugged off the tackle of Hughes. Watch that pass. There it is. Paponis to Bousted, and Bousted, he saw the line and he said, there's no way you're stopping me. And that's his second touchdown. From head on, see it again.
Well, you've got to give all the credit to George Paponis, haven't you? He started the move, instigated it with his pass to Steve Rogers, and Rogers, when he wasn't held, slipped it to Paponis again. But as you said, Ray, a very clever pass, a brilliant piece of football by Paponis, and Australia taking a very commanding lead now, 12 points to 0 with a kick to come.
And there he is, the try scorer. 2 of them, a smiling Kerry Bousted. Oh boy, what a future he's got. So it's Mick Cronin, with Australia leading 12-0, taking this kick from almost an identical position. And you can see the old mound, in fact, that he used to convert the first try. Scored by the same man, Kerry Bousted, from Innisfail. Cronin now hits it beautifully. That's 2 points. And Australia leading Great Britain by 14 points to 0 with 8 minutes of the first half to go. Mr. John Holmes, the 5'8", to restart. And he must be just about getting sick and tired of this.
Yes, I reckon. He's had plenty of opportunities of restarting play. He's a very clever ball player, Holmes, but certainly not a player endowed with a great deal of pace. Great Britain found wanting in the defensive department on a couple of occasions, and we know the attacking brilliance in the side, but unfortunately the few occasions that they have broke the line, they haven't been able to come up with a try.
Well, here's a chance for Great Britain as they tow this loose ball through. It's with Australia now, and it's Eadie. playing at 10 metres out from his own line. Playing it back to Rodinicus. That's Thompson. And so Alan Thompson to play it. Back to Peponis. Young on the inside. Down to the 22. Morris coming on the burst. That's him. Just as well he fell over. Reddy out of one. One-handed pass on the inside. Picked up by Peponis. Given to Rodinicus. Rodinicus looks for Thompson. That's Thompson with the ball now. But taken to ground by Doug Lawton. Again played to Eadie. Craig Young. Morris. And Rod Morris to play the ball. 10 metres short of the halfway. This is the last tackle coming up for the Australians. Thompson with a long pass to Reddy. Reddy through one tackle. Standing and looking for the runner. Eadie to Thompson. Now to Rodinicus. Not held. Rodinicus tries to go ahead. But that's the end of 6. And the scrum will go down about 10 metres on Great Britain's side of the halfway. With 6 minutes of time remaining in the first half, Australia leading by 14 points to 0. And at half-time, we'll be having the Great Britain halfback Steve Nash with us in the commentary box to talk about this first half. Penalty to Australia. Incorrect feed by Stevens. And Peponis has called Cronin across again to take another shot for goal.
And penalties heavily favouring Australia, 6-2 at this stage, and the scrums 4 apiece. Gary Stevens obviously becoming a little frustrated, took the gamble, and with Cronin, of course, in such devastating form with the boot, well, on the surface, it doesn't appear to be a worthwhile gamble in a situation like that. Australia starting now, I feel, to gain the upper hand, starting to display and there is superiority and looking to open the game up. I feel that from here now you might see Rodinicus starting to run a little bit more as well, Ray.
I'm not a judge of crowds at Lang Park. I think I've told you a couple of times that both grandstand areas are filled to capacity. The only areas that are sparsely populated are the areas at the end of the field. I don't know whether this is a 30,000 crowd or not. In fact, I'd be almost certain in saying it isn't, but it's certainly a very big one on this historic night in Brisbane as Cronin puts it between the uprights again for another 2-pointer. Australia 16, Great Britain 0 with 5 minutes of the first half remaining. On the O10 network, the international network for rugby league in 1979. You're watching the first test, brought to you by Electronic Sales and Rentals and Sanyo. And by buying or renting television from Electronic Sales and Rentals on 648-0100. This weekend, the bonus is a digital watch. And so the referee is going to put the scrum down. Cronin's now had 6 shots at goal for 5 successes. Ousted 2 tries. Penalty to Great Britain. Loose arm is the ruling. And coming up to take the kick for line is the 5/8 John Holmes. And the tap will be taken on the 22. Been a big day for the sports lover in Brisbane today with a big race meeting at Eagle Farm and now the test tonight. Ward, about 12 metres out from the line. Playing it back to Gary Stevens. Then it goes through Nichols. And tackle with the ball is Trevor Skerritt. Back to Stevens again. On to Nichols, then to Stevens. Then away to Lawton. And Lawton will play the ball 10 metres out in front of the uprights. Playing it back to Ward. Then on to Holmes. And it came off the shoulder of Norton. It's taken by Thompson. Barentz is chasing Thompson. Looks for Rogers. Finds Rogers. It's gone behind Corowa. It's still in the field of play, though. Well, Steve Norton was coming onto the pass, and then he decided that he was in front of the man with the ball, and he tried to duck out of the road. So it was bad luck for Steve Norton because he certainly has had a good game for the Great Britain side. in the first half. Peponis to play it. Rodinicus, Boyd. Held on the halfway mark. Nichols the tackler. Rodinicus again. Rod Morris. Good run by Morris, taking play 12 metres into the opponent's half. Rodinicus, ready. Rogers. Rogers taken to ground on the 6th, and the scrum to form on the far side of the field. Steve Rogers. We haven't really seen Steve making those spectacular breaks that we've come to expect from him. He made one that brought the crowd to their feet. This is a Great Britain ball, I feel. Stevens has it. Now it's with Norton. But Price stands up. Norton gets the pass to Stevens, who's ridden to the ground by Rod Reddy. Skerritt. Reddy, Price and Young, the tacklers. Just short of the halfway. With Australia leading 16 points to 0, and we're just short of the halfway mark. So too are Great Britain still, as Stevens comes onto the ball. Gary Stevens gave service to the Manly side when playing here in Australia, and this is Doug Lawton. Last tackle coming up for Great Britain, and a penalty to them. That's against Rod Morris for not getting off the man in possession. And Woods it is, the fullback, who's going to take the kick for goal. So it could well be the halftime scoreline will read 16 points to 2. Woods has had the one shot at goal. Siren will sound almost immediately after this kick. In flight, it's got the length, it's hooking a little bit, and it's wide. And so the scoreline remains at 16 points to 0 in favour of Australia. John Woods having 2 kicks and failing with both, and there's the siren. And at the end of 40 minutes, in the first test from Lang Park, Australia lead Great Britain by 16 points to 0. 16 points to 0 with Kerry Boustead 2 tries, Mick Cronin 5 goals, and it's Boustead with the first touch in the second half. Peponis held just inside the quarter line, and now to Rodinicus. Craig Young, Boyd. Around the legs is Lawton, over the top Ward, the hooker. Through a lot of work, the Great Britain hooker David Ward. Craig Young, and he'll play the ball back to Peponis. Rodinicus, Reddy, standing up very wide. Rod Reddy gets a one-handed pass around the corner to Rod Morris. He gets a pass away to Peponis, on to Rodinicus, outside the 30, up to the 40, looking for the halfway mark. Rodinicus, a good little run from the halfback. Got his pass away to Alan Thompson. And this is the last tackle coming up for the Australians. Craig Young, Rogers, very strong man Rogers, Eadie, Boyd, a quick ball to Price, now to Boustead. Boustead's on his way again. Boustead sprinting inside the 30-metre point, across the field. Electrifying player is Kerry Boustead.
Yes, he certainly is. It's disappointing, of course, that the eastern suburbs fans in Sydney don't see the real Boustead, the way he plays in international football. He's had a great game out here, and he's a real favourite, of course, with the local hometown crowd. A wonderful player, and he's given a great exhibition over at Lang Park here this evening. But I'm just wondering now how long it's going to be before the Great Britain side introduce their 2 reserves into the game. Hogan and Evans. They would bring a little bit more flair and speed into this side.
Gary Stevens. Great Britain halfback to play it just outside his quarter line. Running with the ball is the second row forward, George Nichols, who was voted the Player of the Year in 1978. Stevens again. Now with Steve Norton. 10 metres out from the 22. Playing it back to David Ward. Stevens. Lawton. Held by Rogers. Much quieter test than some people expected, Keith.
Yes, I certainly thought there'd be a few more fireworks, particularly in the opening 15 minutes or so, but it hasn't eventuated, and I'll be very surprised now if we don't see the Australians really open up now in this second half.
And there he goes, Graham Eadie, down 10 metres from the 22. Bousted took that ball, and I think he virtually said, I've done enough for one man, haven't I? What about you now, Graham? Boyd. And he might have received one from Jim Mills there. Rodonicus taking it up to the quarter line, and he's going to play it back to Rod Morris. Reddy wants it on the right, and that's him with the ball. Thompson looking for Rogers. Low pass, but beautifully picked up out there. Let's identify that Australian for you, Ray Price. Reddy, Young, then to Morris. Good ball play by the forwards. Players inside the 22 on the last tackle. Paponis back to Thompson, and a drop shot for goal, but it's going over the dead ball line with hardly any elevation at all.
Well, that's a very surprising tactic in the situation there, leading 16 points to nil, a very comfortable lead. Of course, I was expecting either the Australians would attack on the right-hand side where they thought they had the overlap, the Great Britain defence looked a little bit sparse, or the high bomb was going to go up.
So big Jim Mills playing the ball now, just outside his quarter line. That's Stevens, turning it back to Norton, across to George Nichols. Nichols with a good run. Got a bit of speed for a big man to the halfway, lacking support, and they've lost it again. Thompson with it for Australia. Playing it back to Rod Reddy. Given to Ray Price. Over the halfway mark before being halted there by Steve Norton. Played back to Paponis. Rodonicus, a run round. Paponis again, across the field looking for the runner. And Paponis will play the ball about 5 metres on Great Britain's side of the halfway. Played back to Boyd. Boyd ahead. Still going is Boyd. To the 22. Les Boyd going very strongly. Tackle about 5 metres out from the line. Playing it back to Larry Corowa. Out to Thompson. Reddy's there, but it's gone to Rogers. On to Eadie. Eadie standing up on the tackle, getting it away to Cronin. Cronin's pass knocked down by Matthias and recovered by Ray Price. Price calls on Bousted for number 3. Bousted tackled about 5 metres out. Played back and given away to Rodonicus. On to Rogers. Craig Young. Rod Reddy. Reddy shows the ball, goes himself. Then Thompson. Thompson on the inside. Did not get it down.
Yeah, and Alan Thompson can tell he didn't get it done. Did you see the big smirk on his face? A look of anguish, actually, when over the Great Britain line, just couldn't put the ball on the ground.
Good play by Reddy by the same token.
Yes, brilliant play by Reddy. He's having a fine game, and also the back row 3 for Australia, all having fine games. Price, Reddy.
So there's the replay for you with Reddy away from one tackle, standing in Norton's tackle, and then it's Thompson. Can't get it down. And then in desperation loses it as Norton makes a break for England. Back live. And Matthias over the halfway. Bousted in defence. Intercepted by Eadie. Eadie's over the halfway. 20 metres into Great Britain territory. Brushes off 2. Gets it to Paponis. On to Rodonicus. On to Reddy. On to Rogers. Corowa's got the ball and scores. Great try by Australia. Oh, that was a super try.
You go a long way to see a better try than that one. And the crowd certainly appreciating it.
Australia really making the ball do the work. It was from this piece of play. Eadie intercepting. Down the right flank. Brushing off a couple of very feeble attempts to tackle this big man. Look at them. Both over the top of the head. And then Paponis Slides the pass to Rodinicus. That's the 22 line just gone. That's Ready with a perfect ball. Rogers thought that he might score himself, then gave it away like a real team player that he is. And Larry Corowa in to score in this international at Lang Park.
Champagne try, wasn't it? And did you notice the quickness the Australian backs positioned themselves? Once Eadie went charging down that right-hand flank, turned the ball back infield. The Paponis there picked up Rodinicus, out to Ready, and then up, of course, in support were Rogers and Corowa, and the try was on the board. A great piece of football.
Well, that typifies the expression turning defence into attack. It all came from the tackle of Bousted on Matthias, and there's the try scorer, Larry Corowa. Now, in the meantime, whilst we've been looking back at that try, one of the Australians received attention, and I didn't pick up which player it was. I've got a feeling it might have been Graham Eadie. There's the kick by Cronin, and another goal takes the scoreline along to Australia 21, Great Britain 0, and Mick Cronin has kicked 6 out of 7 now. Three tries to Australia, all scored by the wingers. Ready, having a big game. The Rockhampton Rocket. He lifts himself for these big ones, Keith.
Yes, he certainly does. He's had a wonderful game up here this evening, involving himself in attack after attack, of course, positioning himself outside Tommy Rodinicus on numerous occasions, and also he's there in defence, a top effort.
Rod Morris. Well, that previous try was worth going thousands of miles to see. And here's Cronin, turning it on the inside to Rogers, looking for Corowa again. Rogers to play it. 10 metres on the Great Britain side of the halfway. Rodinicus, Boyd, and put to ground by Ward. This is the last tackle. Rodinicus, Ready, Cronin, then to Eadie. Eadie turning the pass back, but Norton has the ball for England. Matthias. Midway between the 22 and the halfway. His own end of the field. Stevens. Mills. Incidentally, a lot of viewers in Sydney tonight waiting to hear the score in an under-21 match between Brisbane and South Sydney. South Sydney won that match 14 points to 11. A little bit of fisticuffs getting into this match as Rogers plays it. On the blind side is Morris, and taken to ground by Skerritt. Playing the ball back to Ray Price, then to Rodinicus, the run around, Price again, a cuff around the chin, then to Alan Thompson, inside the 22, looking for a speedy back. Collar was there, he doesn't know he's there, finds Eadie, Eadie coming inside the 22 again, bumping players off, looking for Corowa, and the knock-on.
Well, I suppose that's typical of the Great Britain defence at the moment. The head-high tackles that Ray Price was able to get through. Of course, the Australians are brushing these aside now, and I should imagine that the Great Britain coach, Eric Ashton, will be looking to his replacements very, very shortly.
So, those replacements that you're talking about coming onto the field, Joyner, the centre, and Mills, the prop forward, have been replaced by Evans and Hogan.
At this stage, I should imagine that the Great Britain would be hoping that they could have left the substitutes on there as well.
Won by Australia. Price and Rodinicus at the scrum base. Price will score. Ray Price scoring for Australia. Australia 24, Great Britain 0. 11 minutes into the second half. And there it is on the disc replay, as Rodinicus slid the ball to Price, and Price strode up the blind side, inside Roy Matthias, and another three-pointer. So it's 2 to Bousted, 1 to Corowa, 1 to Price. And Cronin has added the extras in the shape of 6 goals from 7 attempts.
Certainly a very simple try there, a simple switch up the blind side, and it was very unusual to turn and find that both John Woods, the Great Britain fullback, and also their lock forward, either Steve Norton or Hogan, who just came on. I don't know which one it was, but they were both on the open side, and of course the blind side then was left completely unattended. Veronicus and Price spotted it very quickly, and the try was on.
So Cronin with one of his more difficult attempts at goal. He's got a great record here tonight. In fact, in an interview tonight on Eyewitness News, he made it pretty clear that he wanted to have a big one tonight. There's his kick. And he's kicked it again, Cronin. Australia 26, leading Great Britain 0. And you're watching the first test from Lang Park between Australia and Great Britain, brought to you by Electronic Sales and Rentals and Sanyo. And that number to ring over the weekend to buy or rent television is 648-0100. And of course, a bonus digital watch goes with every rental or purchase over this long weekend. So again, home starts for Great Britain. Down to Price. And it's a penalty to Great Britain. Shepherd is the rule. And Holmes goes across to take the kick for touch. Well, it's been a landslide victory to Australia, but still very enjoyable watching some magnificent tries. 3 of them scored by wingers, the other by the lock. As Stevens runs around with the captain Lawton before Hogan is tackled 10 metres out from the line. He comes here with a very big rap on him, Hogan. Out to Lawton, and Lawton is tackled by Boyd. Played back to Ward on the blind side. That's Holmes giving it to Hogan, playing in 15. And Hogan a couple of metres short of the line. A big man going from dummy half. Barentz, the South African winger. The man who gave Larry Coiloa quite a lesson, they say, in a match against Bradford on the last tour.
I can't say the same thing's happening here this evening, though.
You can say that again. It's out to Stevens, on to Norton. Boyd in the tackle with Reddy. The 2 second rowers. Played back to Ward, on to Stevens. That's Evans in 14. He's also a very speedy player, Evans, and has earned quite a few raps in the press since arriving in Australia. Out to Lawton, on to Hogan. A chance here for Great Britain. Hogan from the knees got the pass away, and Hughes it is who's going to play it deep in Australia territory. Through Holmes, on to Nichols, serving it up, and it's gone loose. Picked up by Skerritt, and Skerritt bustling his way towards the line. Plays it back to Ward, on to Stevens. Then it's with George Nichols inside the 10-metre line, but they've lost it again. So it's Australia's Alan Thompson playing it. And that's Peponis. Playing it back to Thompson. The dummy, and then he goes away from dummy half to the 22. 15 minutes gone in the second half. This is Rogers. Boyd. Penalty to Great Britain. He's ruled the pass was deliberately forward. Bit of a jostle up between Ward and Boyd. Tap taken by Ward. Across through Nichols, a long ball, a good pass to Hogan. And Hogan is tackled over there by Ray Price. Holmes. Nichols down to Ward, and Ward is tackled, and again the tackler was Price. Knock on is ruled and a scrum to go down. Tommy Raudonikis to feed. Penalty to Great Britain. Against Raudonikis. The tap is taken by Norton, given to Ward. And he's met there by Price and Reddy. Ball played back to Stevens. Running with it is Nichols. Standing, looking for support. Finds Ward. Only a metre short of the line. Ward to play it now. Back to Holmes. On to Norton. Tackler was Craig Young. Stevens. Holmes. Out to Hogan. Hogan out of one. Held by Rogers now. Very close to the Australian line, but still unable to break that line of defence. Stevens. Ward. Stevens. And taken to ground by Rodreddy. Last tackle coming up for the Lions now. Trailing by 26 points to 0. A kick ahead by Lawton and appearing to be tripped, and a penalty to Great Britain. See that on the disc. Maybe we should not do that at this precise moment, because they'll be coming up to take a quick tap.
The penalty swung around Great Britain's way, Ray, to the tune of 8-6, and also the scrums in their favour, 6-5.
Stevens. Well, this is showing that Australia can defend as well as attack, as they've held Great Britain at bay now for some maybe 14 tackles or more. Ward, Holmes, Lawton's pass to Norton, and again Rogers makes the tackle with Price on the far side. Steve Norton plays it back to Ward. Stevens, Hogan, a long ball to Holmes, a quick pass to Evans. He's got speed, Evans. Gets his pass to Barents, nicely taken too by the coloured winger. And he's held up by Reddy and Corowa. And around the legs was Alan Thompson. Played again, on to Hogan. This time with George Nichols, then to Ward. But the Australians standing up and knocking the opponents down, keeping them away from that try line. Again a penalty to Great Britain. Australia inside the 5.
Good play by Craig Young then, knocking the ball out of Stevens' hand to slow down and get Australia back into position.
Hogan now takes it to within a metre. 19 minutes of the second half gone, and a knock-on has been ruled.
Smart thinking there by Craig Young, because a quick penalty to Stevens could have had Australia in a dicey position, but full marks to their defence at the moment. There's a lot of pride in their defence. They're getting back into position very quickly, and they don't want Great Britain to get across their line.
So the scrum repacking. And Australia get their first touch for quite some time. Price down to the 22. Still going. Price with a good long run.
He probably just went that little bit too far. If he could have picked up the Australian outside men, then there was a chance for Corowa.
Reddy. To the halfway mark is Reddy. Oh, Evans. Why? Oh, boy, why? In full view of the referee, Eddie Ward. I think Evans is... I'm not quite certain what he's saying to referee Ward. He took the mouth guard out. And I thought for a moment he might have been alleging there was some biting in the tackle. But Rogers finds touch for Australia. 5 metres out from the 22. Corowa. Playing it back to Peponis. On the burst is Morris. Ridden into the ground by Nichols. 15 metres out from the line now. Craig Young. George Peponis going into dummy half. Rodonicus is on the right. Thompson, this man on the left. Eadie's coming up. That's Price! Price, his second try. He's had a brilliant match, Price.
What a wonderful pass from Alan Thompson, though.
Oh, yeah.
To put him right into the gap. A great pass from Thompson. And, of course, Price running to the gap, and when he got there, the pass came in perfect position for him.
So Ray Price going in for his second touchdown. Bousted 2 tries. Price 2 tries. Corowa a try. Thompson to Price. And on the Sanyo Electronic Sales and Rentals head-on, there it is. Australia 29. Great Britain 0. And Mick Cronin has already kicked 7 goals. And that's the kick that he's got. And the way he's kicking, it's certainly not a hard one. He's been potting them from all over the park in this test match.
I should imagine those Great Britain players behind the try line are pretty dejected, and of course it's going to be a long 20 minutes now to the final bell.
Steve Nash, the English halfback who we had that chat to at half-time, has watched the second half with us. And I think he'd be half saying to himself, I wish I was out there myself. Here's the Cronin kick. Another goal to Cronin. And a further 2 points to Australia. They lead by 31 points to 0. The Lions. And John Holmes has had plenty of practice at this tonight. Ready. I think one would be quite correct in saying that this historical night test has been a great success. Completely received by the Brisbane crowd. As Young slides the pass to Morris, who pops it back to Paponis, who gives it to Price, who ducks under a tackle. Another gap created by Price off a good pass. Ready back to Paponis. And the captain is tackled on the halfway. Played again. Raudonikis, Thompson, Rogers. There's Cronin losing it. And running with the ball for Great Britain is Holmes, the 5'8". But very quickly rounded up by Rogers. Just outside the quarter line. Stevens, Hogan, Ward. That's Nichols, Evans. Correction, Hughes. And he's going to play the ball 12 metres out from the 22 as Stevens tries to make the break, but again in vain. Nichols, Lawton, Evans, Rogers chasing and catching Evans about 5 metres from the line. Lawton knocked down by Corowa. And just as well he did, because Berentz was certainly going in for a try.
He did. He was in a similar situation to Matthias when Matthias came in to take Reddy in that first occasion, and Reddy was able to slip the pass to Boosted. Corowa was fortunate enough. He came in and was able to knock the pass down. Saved a certain try.
So Tommy Raudonikis to feed the scrum. The Tooths KB insignia on the shorts, as you can see. That company sponsoring the Australian side through this series. And referee Eddie Ward wants it in again. We'll be back with you with more rugby league on Monday night when Great Britain play Brisbane. Australia scrum win, Raudonikis to Price, and taken by Hogan. Price to play the ball back to Raudonikis. Thompson, Boyd, Eadie it is. Held by Norton and by Skerritt. Ready. Out to the quarter line, Ready. Proving a very hard man for the Lions to pull down. Craig Young. Ready picking up a loose ball. Out to Boyd. Cronin. Rogers. There's a gap. Corowa on the inside. And taken by Nichols. Cronin dummy half. Raudonikis. In the back play, the Great Britain hooker is down injured. David Ward. The captain, Doug Lawton, going into the hooking role for this scrum.
like the Australian attitude too. They've got Great Britain down, and Paponis and Rodinicus, they're both hungry for points, and the Australian players looking to put more points on the board.
So the penalty to Australia. That was against Gary Stevens for failing to retire. And Steve Rogers will take the kick for touch. And he's found it about 10 metres out from the 22. Corowa taking the tap, taking it up. Corowa rooming on this particular trip to Brisbane with Mick Cronin, Young, Paponis, Morris. Oh, Morris fell with what appeared as though it could have been high.
It could have been high, did you say?
Well, I'm only giving the referee the benefit of the doubt.
Yes,
he was in full view of it.
He was certainly hit high. He went down, he was poleaxed.
Well, it was certainly high, but whether it was around the throat area is the point.
Okay. I don't like to see those Balmain players hit that hard. That's probably what it is. Not with the game against Western Suburbs coming up on Monday.
Well, referee Eddie Ward was there right in front of the incident. He saw it, and he's certainly closer to the action than what we are. It was certainly high, but the point is how high, as Keith Barnes suggested. So this scrum inside the 22. Morris took a very heavy tackle. There's the replay of it. With the scoreline, Australia 31, Great Britain 0, and Great Britain win the scrum. Norton taken to ground by Price. Stevens outside the quarter line, playing it back to David Ward. Nichols. Hogan. And the referee wants a scrum for the knock-on by Hogan. And Hogan's in an argumentative mood. In fact, since he came on, he's been involved in a couple of set twos with a couple of the Australian players, and he's had a few words with the referee. Again, the Great Britain side win the scrum, and Norton gets his pass to Evans. Players midway between the 22 and the halfway on the Great Britain end of the field. Skerritt picked up by Boyd and driven into the ground. Played by Skerritt, away to Stevens, on to Lawton. Serves it back to Stevens. And the little halfback is taken to ground by Price again. Played back to Ward, on to Nichols, and then on to Holmes, back on the inside to Hogan. He's gone without it. Picked up by Price for Australia. And he's going to play it back to Thompson. It's gone to Morris. And Morris is ridden into the ground by Holmes. Ball to be played back to Alan Thompson. Rodinicus, a run round on the dummy, and Rodinicus is thumped to the ground by Skerritt.
He's had a good game again this evening, Skerritt, hasn't he? He's stuck to his task. He's been taking the ball out pretty strongly. His defence has again been a feature of the Great Britain pack.
So Reddy plays it. Thompson, Rodinicus, around one, taking it down to the 22. 10 minutes of time remaining in this test match. Played back to Paponis, away to Reddy, chips it off the left foot, taken by Woods, and Woods is tackled by Reddy a few metres out from his own line. This is Hogan. And very heavily built man is Hogan. Played back to Ward, Nichols. Australia have the ball. Price has taken it off him. And Price plays the ball back to Paponis. Penalty to Australia. Great Britain inside the 5.
Les Skerritt getting attention too from the Great Britain trainer.
So Cronin coming up to take the kick for goal to make the score 33-0.
It's just a formality, isn't it, in his current kicking form. He's given a wonderful exhibition out here this evening. And, of course, there has been a number of stars in the Australian team. You couldn't fault any of the Australian players on their performance here this evening. It's been a wonderful combined effort. And, of course, a credit to their coach, Frank Stanton.
They went out there with one firm game plan, Keith, and they've stuck to it.
Yes, they have. A lot of people thought that they could go out there with a complacent attitude, but that wasn't to be, and they're hungry for points.
So Cronin raises the flags again. And Australia lead Great Britain 33 points to 0 in this test match being brought to you by Electronic Sales and Rentals and Sanyo. Familiar sight. In the background you can see, well, not quite now you can't, but you might have seen the Australian cheer squad, and they've been kept pretty busy tonight as Les Boyd is put to the ground by Hogan, a fiery customer. Out to Raudonikis, now to Craig Young, Thompson, and put down by Ward and also by Norton. Played back to Raudonikis, runs into the referee, and referee Ward is going to put the pack down. Raudonikis servicing the scrum now, and it's with Norton, now Evans. 10 metres outside the Australian quarter line. Stevens, Barents, met by Rogers. Across to Stevens again. Holmes, Lawton, and Raudonikis around the legs. Holmes, Hogan. That tackle was made by Rod Morris. Stevens, Nichols, picked up by Lawton, and the last tackle coming up now. Nichols, and the scrum to go down 10 metres out from the Australian quarter line.
And certainly with the situation 33 points to 0 in favour in Australia, and the second test coming up in Sydney in a couple of weeks, I should imagine there's going to be wholesale changes in this Great Britain side, and quite a few of the old familiar faces that have been going around in the Great Britain side for quite a few years now. I think you'll find that they'll be missing from that second test lineup.
To pack satisfactorily. Stand by. Yes, Ray Price has been named the Tooths KB Gold Man of the Match. We'll have our own Man of the Match announcement for you following this match. I'll be in the dressing rooms talking to the Man of the Match and presenting him with the good news of the Sanyo video cassette recorder, valued at well over $1,000.
And it would be a brave decision by Terry Fernley, the Parramatta coach, if he does leave Ray Price and Mick Cronin out of the side to play Cronulla tomorrow.
Talking of Cronulla, there's Rogers, now ready, looks on the outside, gets it back to Thompson. There's a gap up the centre. Thompson runs to it, and he copped a high one from Skerritt, and now the punches fly, and so do the boots. And what we thought might have happened in the early part of the game has eventually come just 5 minutes from the end. Players still engaged, being separated now.
I think he's sending Skerritt from the field.
So Skerritt has been sent off. Let's see the incident if we can. Trevor Skerritt walking, and there it is.
Yes, I don't think you get any argument from anyone over that one, Ray, would you?
Well, this Brisbane crowd letting Trevor Skerritt know that they certainly didn't appreciate that tackle. And Rogers to take the kick for touch. Finding it 12 metres out from the quarter line. Corowa. Craig Young. Play just inside the quarter line now. Morris. 15 metres out. Australia 33. Great Britain 0. Raudonikis. And finding Cronin. Cronin held there by a mass of Great Britain players. Cronin to play it to Rogers. Across to Raudonikis. Then to Reddy. Reddy to Bousted. Then to Thompson. A floating ball to Price with Eadie. A long ball to Corowa. Barentz coming in strongly, taking Corowa. Corowa to play it on the last now. Back to Eadie. On to Young. Craig Young over the 22. Giving it back to Corowa. Then with Cronin. Picked up well by Cronin. Given to Eadie. Eadie inside the 22. Loses the footing.
Yes, he should have let it go, though. He had 4 men outside him, and it was uncharacteristic of Graham Eadie then not to give the pass to the man outside, because an Australian try appeared certain.
In the meantime, Ray Price is still on the ground, receiving attention. And the game in its last minutes now, with a scrum to go down 12 metres out from the try line. Great Britain's end of the field. Gary Stevens is receiving some attention from the Great Britain trainer. Eddie Ward holding play for Stevens. And now the little English halfback to feed it in. Penalty to Australia. Referee Ward calling timeout and calling over George Nichols. Ward letting Nichols know just who's in charge out there, saying I've been in charge for 75 minutes and I'm not about to relinquish it now. Already he's given the marching orders to Trevor Skerritt, a high tackle on the Australian 5'8" Alan Thompson. And Mick Cronin to take another kick for goal. Australia 33, Great Britain 0. And the timepiece showing 3 minutes of this test match remaining. And this big crowd, many of them starting to look for the exits. It's been a long day for the sports lover up here. And it's going to be another big day for them on Monday. Talking of Monday, we'll have the match between Great Britain and Brisbane for you on Monday night. So it's Cronin. Magnificent goal-kicking record in this match, and he's done it again. 35-0 is the score. Australia leading Great Britain with only 2 minutes of time remaining.
And that's 10 goals to Mick Cronin this evening. A wonderful performance. Of course, he's turned in some tremendous goal-kicking efforts over the past few years, but tonight's as good as any kicking effort that he's produced. A wonderful performance. 10 goals from 11 attempts speaks for itself.
Just repeating that Ray Price has been already named the Tooths KB Man of the Match. And we'll have the electronic sales and rentals Sanyo Man of the Match for you after the game. In the dressing rooms, we'll take the cameras across there as Price plays it. Paponis. Well, a rather quiet opening to the test, but a very fiery conclusion. Boyd. And Steve Norton just exercising a shoulder after trying to take Boyd in the tackle. Cronin to the halfway. And Cronin put the ground eventually by Evans. Plays the ball back to Morris. Out to Rodinicus. On to Thompson. Cuts out Reddy. Look at that pass, would you, out to Rogers. That ball went behind Eadie, picked up by Price, given to Bousted. Bousted swerving through player after player. What a great run into Rogers, under Reddy. Knocked down by Great Britain, picked up by Corowa. Tackle count restarts. About 9 metres out from the Great Britain quarter line. Rodinicus, Thompson, Craig Young. And he's felled there in a low tackle by Steve Norton. Rodinicus away from dummy half, back to Rod Morris, then away to Thompson, and behind Les Boyd, but still Australia on the attack, onto the 22 line, and inside that point with Les Boyd. Boyd to play it, and playing it back to Alan Thompson. The siren has sounded, and children invading the field. Referee Ward calls a halt, and the first test is over. Won by Australia, 35 points to 0. Well, there's the scene at Lang Park as the children mill across the field, and Australia giving a devastating exhibition of rugby league, brilliant football, and giving Great Britain plenty to think about, I would imagine, with a 35 points to 0 victory.
The next.